So, hello participants. Today I have for you someone very, very special and someone whom I've known for many, many years now. And in fact, our friendship goes back to before our generation, where Anita Shantaram's father and my father used to work together in the same organization. So I'm so happy to be bringing to you Dr. Anita Shantaram. She is the founder of Ethics India, and I think she's the best qualified person to introduce the subject of ethics to you, particularly as management consultants.
Thanks so much, Anita, for inviting me, and it's great to be with you and the class. And being the last session I heard, I think it's great to lay it with business ethics. Thanks so much.
Fabulous. So, Anita, my first question to you is, you know our audience. They're all prospective management consultants. They want to set up their own consulting businesses. And today there is a lot of scandals that we find. And every week, every day, there is something in the newspaper that tells us that not all is well as far as the morals and business is concerned. And a significant proportion of the scandals tend to be from consultants and big consulting firms as well. Many times consultants are also viewed with a little bit of suspicion, that what is the unethical thing this consultant is going to advise me to do. So you yourself are a consultant, and you're a consultant in the field of business ethics. And it's very interesting for me to ask you, the first question is, what is the core purpose and intention with which you started your professional consulting services? And what do you see is the value addition that you can make, and how do you see it going forward into the future?
As you know, I'm founder of Ethics India, and I started this company in 2016. Now, going back a little bit, is I was into behavioral skills training, and we were associates of Grid Grid International, and we used to run all leadership programs. But when I started doing my PhD, I thought that what is the subject that I should look at? And I know that if I had started it very early in my career, maybe I would have picked up something different, but this was much later. I think that midlife crisis kind of a time. And I thought of leadership, leadership is one of the most researched subjects. So I thought ethical leadership is something that I would do. And what I wanted was something very practical for organizations. I didn't want to come up with something, very conceptual, but something which I felt that if an organization says, I want to be ethical, but what is it that I have to do to be considered or to practice ethics? So I wanted that whole practical aspect coming out of it. And I'll tell you, the title of my thesis is Ethical Business Practices, Corporate Financial Performance, and Empirical Analysis. Wow. So I wanted to show that ethics pays, that it's beneficial to be ethical. And this is in the year 2008. So, at that point of time, it was really, everyone looked at ethics as a cost, if they even thought of ethics. Ethics was still not a, regular part of conversation in detail, at least for businesses. It was not such a highlight. If you look at the newspapers, you wouldn't get a single story about ethics. But today, I don't think a single day goes by without it. So it was 2008, December, when my research proposal got accepted. You remember all these dates with total 28th December was the time that I got that your research proposal has been accepted. And 2009, Jan first week was the Satyam scam. So that, I think, hit me very hard that, yes, I'm in the right time, I'm doing something which is relevant, because till then I would read Enron and WorldCom. All those were the subjects that we would be talking about. And this really triggered that, yes, I am on the right path, and that made me choose this. And during that, as I was sharing with you earlier, that it really people go through, I think in their PhD, go through highs and lows and say, oh, it's exciting. Then sometimes you're like, what am I doing? But I didn't feel that with the subject at all. I just felt I found my calling, and I said, I want to only work in the space.
So it was something
so I decided to set up the company.
Yeah, it came from inside you. And it was something that just
Yes.
everything fell
And you
together.
know my dad. Yeah. And you know my dad so well. So you know how. Correct, correct, absolutely. And you know how dad is, he's someone who used to walk the talk and totally principle based. So he was, I think subconsciously that may have triggered, not very consciously, but subconsciously that's what may have triggered my thinking. And I felt that this is the space. And I didn't like the fact that when people talk of India and they say, oh, we are so corrupt. And a lot of us just accept it as part of our DNA or part of our culture. So I felt that, I don't like that. Can I do a little bit? I know it's going to be very, very minuscule what I can do, because after all, an individual, how much impact they can make. I know it all depends on how much you can, but I felt that, little bit also is fine. And that brought me up in setting. I thought of setting it up as a not-for-profit, because you always think all these things should. And a lot of people told me that why do you think that it's not something that can be consulting, and why organizations can benefit from it, and why should you not charge them for it, because everything free is not always perceived as valuable. And so I set up Ethics India, and 1 year down the line got acquired by Legacy, and so I got more support in doing a lot of work. So that's about how I got into this. And I think you asked me, what do you see the future of it, or how do I see how it's going to go ahead? Okay, lots of areas that it's impacting every ethics is one subject which impacts whether you are in HR, you're in operations, you're in manufacturing, you are in finance. Though financial scandals tend to get highlighted most, but that's not that you don't have unethical behavior or aspects in every part of business. And so you can really bring about a change by working across and not looking at only HR can have so much, training, consulting can have so much of it. So it's something which impacts business completely. And I'm happy with the way. I can tell you that in 2008, people used to actually get amused when I said I'm studying business ethics. They would smile and, think, kya kar rahi hai? Kuch hoga kya? They used to find it funny, they smile and being very, theek hai, you're doing it. But 2015, when I completed, and that was a long journey, I took 8 years to complete, because getting data as well as, you're trying to work. PhD is a luxury in India, because you have to really give your time and effort along with everything else. US, you can do it in 4 years and you get stipends and whatnot. Here, it's difficult. So they used to get, but 2015, when I completed, I would see people say it's needed, it's relevant. So those 7 years, 8 years, I found a marked shift in the way people would receive, and not a single person that I would hand my card to or talk about Ethics India would not want to have a conversation. They would say, yes, we need to, how, how much, all that is different, but we need to. So I feel very thankful that we are at that stage, and it's only getting better.
Wonderful. So it's only going to get better for you. Um, and hopefully the world is going to be a better place because of you and people like you as well. Great. So one of the things that, of course, my students are yet to, see how the session is going to roll out today, but consulting firms, particularly large ones, and I don't want to name them right now, seem to be plagued with corruption scandals. Despite having a cloak of respectability, and they also have very strongly held and enforced codes of conduct, it's written down on their websites. They keep revising them and revisiting them. For example, McKinsey, they have they spend one day every year reflecting on their values and their value statements and things. But despite all of this, the corruption and scandals seem to continue to be abounding. So in your opinion, why do you think this happens?
So as you said about, the maybe the big consulting firms having a great code of conduct. Enron also had the best code of conduct. If you look at it, it was so well defined and one of the biggest scandals that we've had over time. So code of conduct per se. So that's very important when you're talking of, thanks for bringing out code of conduct, because I think that that's one of the good ways of being able to get people to be on the right path. But most of the organizations have e-learning modules, or you will have, and it's taken very mechanically. It's something that, see, the moment it gets mandated, we do it, but we do it uh, annual signing off that this is, we've read the code of conduct, we've done it, and it's okay. I'm getting more and more assignments where people say, look at our code of conduct. Can you train people through live sessions so that they can take it further? And I'm doing a lot of work in that space, and mechanically giving to large, consulting firms to, draft my code of conduct. In fact, it should not be very detailed. The policies internally can be detailed, but the code of conduct needs to be crisp and so that people actually recall it or can identify. And the thumb rule of words, pages, the policies can be, but if you look at the basic conduct, it should be crisp. And so I bring it to life. A lot of discussion around it, have stories around. Some of the companies, Infosys, I've liked the way they have put their code of conduct with a lot of pictorial, with a lot of dilemmas, with a lot of situations in it. Hershey's chocolate, I just love their code of conduct, the way it was presented. I feel that code of conduct is one of it. You need to have live sessions. We can't, I know very large organizations use e-learning, but at times have discussions around it. You can't, if you don't do it, it's not. So that's one of the reasons you may these big firms have great, but how much of it are they really living? How much are the top management really promoting it? How much are you having conversation around it? Because I feel that's a basic need. If you do that, ethical behavior is a little more of a possibility. Other than just a document, we've signed it, we have to do it, and not. So the code of conduct, how well it is based is one. And the other one is about conflict of interest. Now, this is not a subject that we learn from childhood. We may be told honesty is best policy. You must not lie. You must not do this. But we don't have discussions. And if you look at most of these consulting issues which come out is because of conflict of interest. And that's something that we don't think so clearly, that self-interest does come out naturally. And we so when you talk of the big fours, 1/5 of their revenue is from audit and 4/5 is from consulting. They said how, and most of the amount of fines that they end up paying for audit failures, or in Enron also, Arthur Andersen and all of that went wrong. And I can take that name because these are all out in the open. It's not something that is not there. So you're paying fines for it, because how much will you really stand up for the organization's wrongdoing when you are earning so much, revenue from others? So this is a basic aspect which is leading them or big firms into this mess that they are in because of the conflict of interest. And I think all of us have aspects where in conflict of interest will come, but the higher you are in an organization, more impact. And I think that's a subject which causes. So we need to see how we can isolate, or how we can create those lines so that it's not blurred between audit and consulting, or how the new quota committee report says chairperson and CEO should be two different. So that better corporate governance, better, all of these things will only help you do the right things. So I think that conflict of interest issues, how you deal with it and how you best deal with it are one of, and code of conduct are the two reasons. Despite, and it's intelligent people and smart people who do the wrong thing. It's not some person who's dumb or foolish. So I had the data wherein they said that Satyam, what they ended up doing, and despite knowing that what the whole scam was. And when they were trying to find back, this is looking at how what wrong was being done, they're saying they still found it so difficult to trace exactly what was wrong because it was done so well. So it's not, so you have intelligence, it's intelligence put to, and greed, which is put to the wrong use, which ends up, is happening. So consultants, CFOs, MBAs, all these are people we have to, teach more and more of ethics so that we don't end up doing the right things.
Yeah. So in fact, you use the word teach, more of ethics, and that's exactly my point. How do you teach ethics? How do you get people to inculcate and imbibe a sense of values? Uh, I do believe some of it begins at home, and I do believe some of it is so intrinsic to person's character,
Mm-hmm.
can tell right from wrong. Everyone has a conscience, and can tell what is right and what is wrong, and everyone has their own intrinsic interpretation of what is right and wrong. But you never know when the boundary gets crossed. I want to make profits, or I want to be greedy about making profits, or I want to sell my stock, but it's an
How much?
incentive that I got, that I sold that stock on. So things like that. So how do you feel teaching or interacting with your stakeholders, whether it is clients in the organizations and in companies, HR people, CEOs, or if it's business school students, which you also teach? How do you interact with them to influence their behavior to be more ethical? Can it be taught, or is there other ways in which we bring awareness to them?
Yeah, one of the papers I wrote was, can ethics be taught? Because it's really, that's the big question. Are we relying a lot on in values at home, or internal, or you can teach, is it too late to teach it in organizations or business schools? But I say it's never too late.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it, you have to look at what's the cost of not doing it.
Yeah.
As we talk of training, what's the cost of not doing? So the same way, I say it's never too late, and always doing that. Yes, values at home, fundamentally, I would say, if I have to put a figure, I would say 50% of the job is done at home. You see your parent saying something and telling you, do not lie. I'd say that, what are we thinking when we are doing something wrong, and they're telling them, theoretically on that, do not lie, do not do this, do not that. It doesn't at all sync up. So that 50%, I would say, comes out. But there's a beautiful study by Yale, and the video is there. It's called Born Good. And Born Good. And it asks the question that, do we learn to be ethical, or are we born with ethics? And I won't give you the answer to that, because if I would love you to go and watch that video. It's there on YouTube. So Yale study, Born Good, and you will get fascinating answer in terms of how much of ethics is there, whether it's internally there or we learn about it. So you check that out. So when we're looking at, I feel that, as I said, that it's never too late. We must. That's why caselets and dilemmas and all of that is used, because there are no clear-cut answers. And same way, what you'll be talking of Mary Gentile, it's like reinforcing, building your muscle for doing the right thing. Like personally, I feel it's led to my self-transformation also. The fact that I studied, or I was taught ethics, makes me question my act sometimes, to maybe too much of an extent. You feel like you can't just do it. But and people also, I said, soon if I try to influence all my friends, I'll have no friends, because if I keep telling them that this is it. So you learn to draw the line and balance it out. I said, you inherently, your first choice should not be to do something. That's something, if that comes in your mind, means we need more training, we need something, something's wrong somewhere. When it happened long ago that someone wanted me to do something in part of Rotary, and they said, do not put the dates correctly when new members are coming, because we'll have to pay so much fees, so why don't we put it at a later date? So we put, and then the guy is saying, but I don't think Anita will agree to it. So I felt that that was a great message, that they knew let's not ask this. I came to know about it later on. Don't ask it because the person's not going to do it. So maybe I've got less business because many people may not be calling me for things, but I get the right people and I still get business. So there are enough good people out there doing the right thing. Others we would not be. I'm sure I've digressed because I can keep
I was
talking about
reminded
it.
of a
But
book by Charan Das, on the difficulty of being good. How difficult it is to be good in today's world. I was, and how easy it is to be bad.
yeah, and more people who will, and they find it attractive also, and that
And it
being
becomes a
bad.
norm. It becomes
So
accepted norm.
yeah. So when you're talking, yeah, sorry. So when you spoke about this, I'm reminded of one of the best research papers that I liked from Harvard Business School is ethical breakdown. I don't know whether you've seen that. It's why is it that good people end up doing bad things? So the basic belief is not that it's people are bad, or so I put more emphasis on the organization culture, because you may get someone tempted to do wrong, but if the systems are in place and the organization is reinforcing that belief, you are more likely to toe the line, and that can become a part of. So I'm looking at it from that, and that's why I looked at business ethics and not individually working with people, because I said I won't be able to make a difference. But if I work with organizations and influence them, they will impact the employees will impact the house, and we would have a larger setup, having a greater impact. So culture is important. Tone at the top, which we keep talking about, is very, very important. And there are enough organizations when they ask me to do an ethics awareness session, and I ask them, how strongly do you want me to emphasize it? Because the concern is if you say too much and your actions don't really reflect it in your behavior over, it'll cause greater dissonance. So do you want to say zero tolerance? Only then let's emphasize it. Otherwise, let's build it gradually. There's no harm in that. But everyone's saying zero tolerance to it, and you see cases, and then people will close their eye because he's a good performer, or this is a good business. So that's how. But there are enough people who do say zero tolerance, but there are enough who don't. So all kinds which make up, but our job is to keep being at it. And I know we'll make a difference.
True. And in closing, I have only one question. Have things changed for the better over the years, or not?
I'm an eternal optimist, and I would love to believe it's for the better. I feel it's for the better because at least we are bringing it out in the open. We are talking about it. We are discussing it. For me, when Ramling Raju went to jail, it was one of the biggest shockers, because till then I had not seen any business person being penalized for his actions. So you may have criminals, you may have this, or you may have politicians being caught. You didn't have business being dealt with so strongly. So the fact that it's become, but sometimes I feel that so much of it has been going on that are we becoming immune to it? Is it no longer having that shocking impact on us that we think, okay, someone's doing insider trading, we've had fall of so many, top CEOs and so on, whether it's for posh or it's for insider trading, conflict of interest. We've had so many cases. So I'm saying that, are we going to become immune? So that's my only worrying factor. So we need to take stronger, but it is the daily conversations that we are having, the companies that are coming to us for work. I say it's, some of it is mandatory, but still how you do that mandatory work. So even if it's compliance, even if it's law, how well you're doing it. And if you're spending that time and effort and money, I feel it's great. It's positive. Though, when you have cases like Siemens or Volkswagen, if everyone reads about the FCPA, the fines that they ended up having to pay for their actions, and they spend so much on doing work post that. I feel if organizations give a budget for ethics training, for compliance training, are a little more liberal with it, I think things would be better rather than doing it post as a reactive measure. And something goes wrong, so I will go and train everyone. And it's happening with Posh also. Companies want to ignore it, but when something happens, then they say, "Oh, let's go and start doing." So it's a that's what I would say. That it's positive, it's increasing, but yes, I don't want us to become numb to it or get used to it. So somewhere we need to take stronger action.
What we call normalized into society, that it's normal to do all this stuff.
Yeah, sab kar rahe hain, it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is doing insider trading. It's too bad that Rajat Gupta got caught or Mr. Purva got caught. Everyone else is doing it and they get away scot-free. So 1 in 1,000 will get caught. The rest will not get caught also. So
many,
it becomes part of normal life, and that's very scary. Things like that. Anyway, we are hopeful that the future will be better and is getting better. And that's the reason why we are having this conversation, and that's the reason why we're having this session for consultants to be, and just to make them aware of the areas in which, the gray areas in which your behavior could go wrong, and unknowingly you could be committing an unethical act without knowing it. So if you want to do it with full awareness.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my take on this. So thank you so much, Anita. It has been amazing talking to you and getting a really professional perspective on the topic. And it was really very, very insightful, your inputs on so many areas. Thank you so much on behalf of participants and on behalf of the management and staff of All India Management Association. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Pleasure.